This is about my mom and my family and how we lost her, not just to COVID-19, but to Trump's lies, the MAGA conspiracy theories, and the cult-like devotion to a political ideology that consumed them. Many of you wanted to hear more about the story, about my mom, Betty Ralph's story, so I wrote a short version to give you an idea of what happened. I recently posted a video about how I know this recent market slump, even a crash, won't shake MAGA cultists from the cult of Trump, because I watched my family sacrifice my mother to the cult of Trump 3 years ago, and they never wavered in their support of the deadly ideology. They voted for the man most responsible for my mom's death again in 2024 and continue to cheer his ongoing destruction. They will continue to cheer his atrocities for the foreseeable future. These are the phenomena that keeps my family and the MAGA cultists trapped in their beliefs, even after those beliefs cost them everything, even after they cost us my mom. Cognitive dissonance, sunk cost fallacy, the echo chamber of their ideology, it all works together to keep them from seeing the truth. They've invested so much of themselves in this worldview, in the cult of Trump, and the conspiracy theories that surround him, that admitting they were wrong would feel like losing a part of who they are, their identity. So instead, they double down, they twist the pain, the loss, the suffering into proof that they're right. My mom's death wasn't a tragedy caused by their refusal to believe in science. It was a sacrifice to test their faith in a movement that told them the pandemic was a hoax. They can't see they've been harmed by the very ideology they cling to, because to see it would mean confronting the unbearable truth that they didn't just lose my mom to COVID, they helped kill her. And so they stay trapped, locked in a cycle of denial and devotion, because the alternative, facing the reality of what they've done, is too painful to bear. And this is why Trump and Elon are applying the pain of the market, social service cuts, job losses, etc. now. This gives them 2 years to retcon the story of the cause of the pain, just as they did with January 6th. Retcon is a shortened form of retroactive continuity, and it refers to a propaganda technique in which the form or content of a previously established narrative is changed, essentially rewriting history to be favorable to the leader. This retconning of the pain we are all feeling now is already happening, and it will work for most of the MAGA cult, just as it did for January 6th. Remember how everyone was against January 6th? MAGA rebranded it a day of love. Now, instead of a day of love, this current market pain is being rebranded as the golden age. Just watch. I'd love to be wrong. My mom died from COVID-19, but her death wasn't just from the virus. It was from the denial, the misinformation, and the unwavering loyalty to a movement that told them the pandemic was a hoax, that masks were unnecessary, and that vaccines were dangerous. My family didn't just believe these things, they lived by them, and in the end, those beliefs cost my mother her life. My family's descent into this mindset didn't happen overnight. It started slowly, with emails and social media posts filled with conspiracy theories after 9/11. It grew with the rise of Trump, who became some of their messiah, their voice of truth in a world they believed was out to get them. They didn't just support Trump, they worshipped him. My mom and dad weren't so avid, but they did seem to be devout believers. They didn't fly Trump flags, but they were evangelicals. I feel they saw him as a savior, a man who could do no wrong. I even told my mom that. She was seemingly worshiping at the altar of Trump. I still have the texts, but I haven't been able to look at them since she died. I will someday. Dr. Stephen Hassan, a renowned expert on cults and mind control, delves into the phenomenon of Trump's influence in his book, The Cult of Trump. He describes how Trump's rise to power was not just a political movement, but a psychological one, fueled by a combination of charismatic authority, propaganda, and the unwavering support of evangelical leaders. These leaders, Hassan explained, essentially coronated Trump as a divine figure, framing him as a modern-day Cyrus, a leader chosen by God to protect Christian values and restore America's moral order. This narrative resonated deeply with evangelicals like my parents, who saw Trump not just as a president, but as a savior figure fighting against a secular liberal world they believed was out to destroy their way of life. For my parents and many others, this coronation of Trump by evangelical leaders had a profound effect. It wasn't just politics, it was about identity, faith, and survival. They were told that supporting Trump was a moral imperative, a way to defend their beliefs and their family from perceived threats. This messaging created a powerful emotional bond between Trump and his followers, one that was nearly impossible to break, even when Trump's actions or policies contradicted their Christian values. My parents and others like them found ways to rationalize or ignore it. I honestly believe my parents thought the vaccine may have been the mark of the beast or something to that effect. I never brought myself to ask them while they were alive, but I imagine some of my family members still hold those beliefs or the current adaptation of them, whatever that may be in the cult of Trump. At that point, they were no longer just supporting a political leader. They were part of a movement, a tribe, a cult. And like any cult, questioning the leader or the ideology was seen as disloyal or betrayal. This blind loyalty, Hassan argues, is what made Trump's followers so resistant to facts, science, and even the suffering of their own loved ones. For my parents, this meant that when COVID-19 hit, their devotion to Trump and the narratives he promoted overrode any concern for their own health or my mom's life. By the time COVID hit, my family was fully immersed in what I can only describe as a cult. They weren't just conservative or Republican, they were part of a movement that rejected reality, that saw science as the enemy, and that valued loyalty to Trump over the lives of their own family members. They believed the pandemic was a plot to control him, that masks were a symbol of oppression, and that the vaccine was a tool of the deep state. They weren't just misinformed, they were indoctrinated. During the COVID-19 pandemic, my rural school district in Nauvoo, Illinois, became a microcosm of the larger cultural and political battles playing out across the country. The school board of that tiny village made the controversial decision to violate state law by refusing to implement a mask mandate. This decision wasn't just a rejection of public health guidelines, it was a defiant act of loyalty to the anti-science, anti-government rhetoric that had taken hold in our community. Nauvoo was just one of only a handful of school districts in the entire state to take this stance, and the consequences were immediate and devastating. Much of the town was there as the board took that vote. They claimed it was about freedom, but to me it was about something far darker, a willingness to sacrifice others for the sake of ideology. This wasn't just a school board decision, it was a reflection of the same cult-like thinking that had already taken so much from my family. And in the end, it was another example of how the people I loved were willing to put their beliefs above everything, even the lives of their own community. When my mom got sick, their beliefs didn't waver. I was left out of conversations and decisions about her condition. They told me they were listening to the doctors, but they weren't. They refused life-saving treatment like remdesivir because they believed it was part of a government conspiracy. They even looked for ivermectin, a horse dewormer, because within the MAGA cult, my parents had heard it could cure COVID. They were willing to try anything except the science that could have saved her. And when she died, some of my family lied about how it happened. They told my mom's friends and family that she died from a cardiac arrest, not COVID, even though that was what the doctors had told us, that was what the medical examiners concluded, and that was what was plainly typed on her death certificate. They couldn't face the truth that their beliefs, their loyalty to a movement that told them the virus wasn't real, had killed her. They couldn't admit that they were wrong, so they buried the truth, just like they buried my mom. I tried to fight for her. I tried to get them to listen, but they wouldn't. They called me names. They cut me off. They punished my kids. They protected their lives at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing our own mother. They were so deep in the cult of Trump, so consumed by their need to believe in something, that they couldn't see the damage they were doing. They couldn't see that they were killing her. My father, Larry Ralph, is dead now too. COVID didn't take him in a single dramatic blow like it did my mother. Instead, it left him with rheumatoid arthritis, long-term health issues, damage he refused to acknowledge. He died from a stroke, likely caused by long COVID. We had a big fight a few months after Mom died, and I started putting it all together after the initial trauma. I didn't talk to him for months, but I eventually did, and I'm glad I did because he died just a year later, and I'm eternally grateful that we were talking in his last year. We avoided those sensitive topics and knew where each other stood. He still believed the conspiracy theories that took his wife up to the point of his death. This isn't just about my family. It's about what happens when misinformation takes hold, when people care more about their political tribe than the truth, when they'd rather let someone die than admit they were wrong. My family isn't unique. This is happening all over the country. People are dying because of lies, because of pride, because of fear. The cult of Trump isn't just a political movement, it's a mindset. It's a way of thinking that values loyalty over truth, that sees science as the enemy, that puts ideology above human life. It's a movement that tells its followers that they are the only ones who know the truth, that everyone else is out to get them, and that they must fight to protect their way of life, no matter the cost. And the cost is high. It's lives. It's families. It's my mom. I'm sharing this because I don't want anyone else to go through what I did. I don't want anyone else to lose their mom because of conspiracy theories and denial. My mom didn't have to die. And if just one person hears this and changes their mind, if just one life is saved, then maybe her death won't be in vain. This is about my mom and my dad and my family and the lives that took them from us. It's about the cult of Trump and how it destroyed my family. And it's about the hope that someday people will wake up from this nightmare and see the truth before it's too late. Thank you.